Welcome. Joe and I are here with Ryan Fogelman, who is one of the co-founders of Cohatch. And Gio wanted to dig into all the exciting things about Cohatch. If you're watching on YouTube, Gio has the Indianapolis location in his background. It's an old church. Ryan, thank you for joining us today.
Very fun to be here.
And Ryan's actually the chief utility player, right? I think anything that no one else wants to do, they're like, Ryan will do it, right? So
Well, yeah, kind of. I get the hard problems to solve sometimes, right? Outside of the course of business. So I'm like Matt's concierge. Like he'll say to me, "Hey, we need some help in this location. Can you figure it out?" Or, "Hey, we need to raise money. Can you figure it out?" Right? Just simple things.
Or, hey, Gio asked us to be on a podcast. Talk to Ryan.
It could be that as well, but since I introduced you in the first place, I think he shows loyalty, so it's good. It's good.
Wait,
it's good.
Is this you with the JD MBA?
I do have a JD MBA.
Jeez Louise.
I do. Honestly, like what I do for what I do for a living, I could have just a normal high school education, but yes, right. JD MBA. I have a law degree and an MBA.
Yeah. So I have an MBA, and I was always like, who are these people that get more than one graduate degree at the same time? I do not understand. I cannot get inside their brain and understand. They're like, yeah, I might as well do two while I'm here.
Well, that's funny. I went to Michigan State for undergrad, and so when I graduated, I hadn't like basically more than one paper in all of Michigan State undergrad business school. So I went to get a law degree, and I was really fortunate that the MBA program gave me a full ride to basically work with them. So instead of, I got a 4-year program for both, and it was actually like, it was really cool, and it saved me from ever having to practice law, which was definitely something that
no one wants to do.
About.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I've 1 in 2 lawyers does not want to be a lawyer, and the other ones, we don't know the truth, right? So it is what it is.
Got it. Okay, Gio, start us off.
Well, let's start with kind of what your background is outside of school, right? Because you are a serial entrepreneur, as we can see in your background. You've got a slew of companies you've started and different things, and you've got an incredible vision in mind for new ideas. So you kind of want to talk about kind of what your background is and how you got into Cohatch?
Sure. It's interesting, right? Because Cohatch this wasn't something that we sat down and decided to go do, right? I think I explained this to you 6 years ago when we first started, but really we had started Mesh Fitness, which was basically a larger scale Snap Fitness 24/7 that was based in Bridge Park. And we thought we were going to put like Mesh Fitnesses all over the country. But in my background, I went to Michigan State. I got an in business, got a JD MBA, went the Accenture route and did a lot of technology and data analysis. Then I actually just went full into sales. I had sold shoes for 10 years in the inner city of Detroit for a company called Mr. Allen's. So after that, I'm just cut to be a sales guy and kind of a hustler, similar to similar to you probably. But at the same time, I started in 2008 my own company that was really an outsourced VP of business development, and I ended up in a niche where I helped inventors bring their products to market. So typical inventor, they get a patent and then they spend their life savings trying to bring the product to market, and usually that's where the failure is, right? So that's when I really long time ago learned that I was not going to invent something, right? I always thought that I would, invent something and then bring it to market, but what I learned is that I was better bringing things to market than I was to invent them. And it was kind of interesting. Cohatch, we started because we wanted to work with small businesses and for other reasons, and we needed an office. So that was really the kind of the impetus of the six partners. So we really didn't have it written down. We didn't raise money. We basically self-funded it. And we really just had a warehouse that happened to have been an old stage from 150 years earlier. And we got lucky because it was over a gym that the landlord was more than willing to allow us to take over space that she considered wasted. I know.
And
Long.
you guys have made an incredible. Originally, that's what y'all did. Y'all basically took underutilized space and created a really cool environment with that. We looked at, I think, the library that was that a 3-story library that you took me to with the candle place downstairs.
Yeah, so basically our first location was on the second floor, which was an old stage. It was like a stage it was the first building in Worthington, Ohio. And then our second location was also in Worthington. To your point, the city had an old library and they really wanted to activate it. So we ended up taking over the space, we rehabbed it, and then we put a maker space on the down floor. So that turned into, we had like 7 different businesses, and it really became a maker space. And to this day, it actually still is a full maker space.
And a big part of y'all's business is mission driven, right? Community driven, to give back. I think that's something that I really loved, spending that time with you and going the candle making and the organization that y'all had supported through that.
Well, yeah, and I think for us, we didn't start it as a business; it was really a passion. So there's 6 partners. Eric Furch actually lives in Minnesota. We have Joel and Elizabeth. They do all of our design work. Terry Heggendorfer had worked with Honda forever. He retired, and basically he builds a lot of our facilities, especially the ones in Columbus. And then he's the managing partner. He needed help, obviously, and then I came in from a sales and marketing perspective and ran it. But like Matt and I both loved helping small businesses, and like so it became part of the fabric, but not because we were trying to make it part of the fabric. Is that the reality was we want this to be an extension of your home. I like working with small businesses and real small businesses, right? I think there's a lot of VCs, and God love VCs, but the reality is that most people don't look and create mentoring for the organizations that are more like the seeds, I call them, right? So we're fortunate. We have 200 Blue scholarships now. We have 400 nonprofit scholarships. So these are nonprofits that, just like a for-profit, they need to get out of their houses, and the people running them still have the same problems that you have in a for-profit, except you're told never to take risk because the board doesn't want to take risk, right? And 2, you still have to build the website, you still have to start the business, you still have to figure out how to either get donations or drive business. So getting them out of their house is a really helpful thing for a lot of them, and we've had decent success with those. But we've also had a lot of failures as well. So it's just like anything else. Those small businesses, they can grow huge and they can die quickly.
Yeah, and then the really cool old brewery that y'all were in, that's a meadery now outside of, was it Polaris Mall? Is that right?
Yeah, so out of Polaris, we doubled the size of that. So now it's like 30,000 square feet. We have our own event space. So we have over 100 event spaces in Columbus, but that's a massive event space. You can have a wedding or training. And we ended up taking the meadery out. We opened in Bridge Park. It was called Brazen Head. So we turned that into a North High Brewing. And then we have 5 of those. We're about to open our second in Columbus, which will be in Westerville.
And you are an incredible entrepreneur. Would you want to talk about, you've got 2 products behind you in addition to Cohatch. What are those?
Well, so in 2015, like I had Conversion Development Group, which was outsourced VP of Business Development. And really, my belief in marketing is that if you're spending money on marketing, it better be for a sales like generation, right? And any other marketing that's spent is typically a waste of, especially startup dollars. So in 2015, I'd worked with one of my good friends who has since passed away, but he started Fire Rover. So he had called me up and said, "Hey, I have this cool product that puts fires out through the internet. Come up and look at it." And I went up, and he had built basically a giant squirt gun. So fast forward to now, we have 500 locations. We're protecting, 9 out of 10 waste and recycling companies in the country. We're doing, if you think of really scary hazards for fire, that's what we deal with. and we're basically using thermal technology to real time look at it, verify, and then we actually have human agents who shoot it and put the fires out. And then regrip, which I had worked with two of the inventors of that. We had the patent on it. And actually, for 6 years, we didn't do very well. We launched 2 years ago, like right in pandemic, we launched our stick grip product, which there's literally a billion views. And when I say a billion, I know what a billion views on TikTok means, right? As a 48-year-old, a lot of people think, what's TikTok? What's that? But we literally have a billion views on TikTok. So it's every kid from 7 to 13 knows our product for hockey sticks, lacrosse, and baseball bats. So that's been fun, but that's only been the last couple of years.
Jamie's face, she's just like, how much has this guy done?
It's impressive.
Well, but let's look, like, really what we built Cohatch for was, like, it allowed me to be a startup inside Cohatch. So we actually had, my first office was, my customer was Regrip. They being my partner, he said, I want to be supportive, so I'm gonna rent an office. And so it really is a community focused. Everyone kind of works together. Everybody really cares about each other. And the reality is that in Columbus, we've done a decent job, but now we have Cincinnati and Cleveland, Indy, Charlotte, Atlanta, and
Florida.
Atlanta will be opening, and then we have Tampa. So what's nice is that, like, the biggest fear we had when we started expanding outside of Columbus was, can we bring our culture to those locations? And the reality is that every location has their own culture, right? So it doesn't necessarily, they're so different and so unique, and every location has a different, like, a different set of parameters and a different set of people and a different, like, set of values. And really it seems to work out relatively well. So we've been really blessed with what we put together.
I'm curious about your expansion, because you're doing a lot of kind of Ohio markets, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus. Why Tampa?
So it's interesting. We opened our first in Lakeland, which, if you've ever been to Lakeland, it's like a postage stamp, small downtown, right? I love Detroit Tigers. I'm from Detroit originally, so I've been down to Lakeland for spring training for years. So I said the same thing. I looked at our partners and I'm like, why? And I think Tampa's kind of the same, but it's what we're able to do in Tampa. We're doing a couple things that are pretty amazing. We took a barbecue restaurant that had been around for a long time, and we've basically taken them out of their space and we're putting them into a completely renovated space. We were partnering with a company called King State, which is a brewery, which is local. So again, I think if you look at our numbers, we always try to make sure that we're going into walkable neighborhoods. And with that being said, do I think we could ever get into Miami? Probably not, based on the cost, but Tampa had a reasonable, especially at the time we were putting in, there was a reasonable enough rates. And then the difference between us and most other companies is that neighborhoods bring us in to activate spaces. So a lot of times it's like, why are we in a mall? We're in a mall because the mall came to us, the CEO of Washington Prime saw our makerspace and said, hey, would you put this in a mall? Matt came to us as partners and we all said, no, like, why would I ever want to put this in the mall? But then the reality is that once we started looking and researching and understanding, a mall's a community, right? It's a walkable neighborhood, and it needs, just like anything else, as it evolves, it needs the same things that a small neighborhood would need. So I think that's really what drives our decisions. We did one in Springfield that they brought us in. So we've been very fortunate that a lot of times neighborhoods will reach out to us first before we go out of our way to expand.
So how do you approach going into a market like Tampa, which is not near your other locations? How do you orchestrate a successful launch in a totally new market?
So I can answer, in a totally new market, how do you organize a successful launch? In Tampa, we have one location open. We have three. It's taken a lot longer than we thought. Right? There's a lot more rules there than we're dealing with in Midwest markets, right? And again, I think it's one of those. We're in Charlotte through through our partnership with Huga. And again, obviously they had a different model. So when you go into a new market, for us, we always want to make sure that we have at least 3 locations. Because if you're not going to do that, that's really hard for us, right? Because for us, we also have a lot of smaller locations. So it might be inefficient, but we feel that it's what gives us the best product. So with that being said, if you're a member and you want to have a good experience, you're going to have a better experience if you're an 8,000 square foot facility than if you're at a 50 to 60,000 square foot space. And again, we also want character, and we spend extra money to get those things right. We really don't cut corners, or we try not to cut corners when we're going to these markets. So really what we're doing is the same thing that we've done in Columbus and we continue to do, but it's definitely something that's more of a, there's definitely numbers behind it, but it's a lot of the motivation is unique, if that makes sense, right? It comes from a lot of different places than just the company.
Yeah, and you guys have a ton of really unique spaces, right? From event spaces, you mentioned that. Not only is it just open rooms, but you've got theater rooms, you've got arcade rooms, you've got all kinds of fun stuff that you guys have done really cool stuff with. Who comes up with the design and kind of how the vision plays out for each location?
Yeah, so Joel and Elizabeth, they own a company called Brand Stamp. So they literally, like in the beginning, they had a company, they had Gatorade as their biggest account. They used to do a lot of these like huge, massive sports complexes. So they were unique, and they needed a space to get out of their house. They were parents with young kids. And so part of the deal was they design it and then they get a space for free for life. So then since then, we've now had Joel and Elizabeth do a lot of the design. I think all of us kind of come up with the things that are fun, right? Listen, I want a theater, and we want to have kids' birthday parties at our location. It's an extension of your home. You can also do trainings there, but honestly, most of the time it's used as a theater. It's used as they're watching movies on Saturdays and popcorn with kids, and it's fun. And then we have a rock climbing wall because Joel really loved like rock climbing. So we built a 2-story rock climbing wall at one of our facilities. And we always do a sports simulator in a market, right? And that's kind of back to Jamie's question. Like every market should have 1 or 2 simulators, but after that, right, it's not overly used, but it's used for parties and other stuff. And again, if that was the only business, we'd probably not have it in a business, right? So it's an additional thing that you can offer. The location that you're at, there's a basketball hoop outside that literally, like, it was around when the church was there, but literally it's used every night, right? There's always basketball games. So part of the community was like, how do we continue to not be a church, but act like that community that the church had already offered to the community? And that's really, we do pay a lot of attention to trying to figure out what not to take away, what to make sure that we're giving, right? Because it's really all about your members and what they can use. And again, we don't focus on kind of the office space. We focus more on the member and the business owner.
Yeah, such a big part in just hearing everyone's stories and spending time with you that day, and which was totally impromptu. Literally, Jamie, I reached out to him before long. We ended up having dinner and all kinds of stuff, and so he was very gracious with his time. And so it's been fun to see kind of the evolution of Cohatch and the spaces y'all are going into, because originally it started with, like you said, the stage, then it went to the library, the brewery, the space in Mason's super cool, that the one I was talking about. So it's a strip center, Jamie, that essentially has a co-working space in it. They did a great job with the theater. And then I think the one that I loved, and you've got a bunch of good ones, but the one in the Whole Foods parking lot where y'all basically took that second floor that had been underutilized and basically created a really cool space out of it.
Yeah, it's funny because we actually finally found out that it was a furniture store. When we first went up there, it's in Upper Arlington, and basically they're creating a town square. So it was all single story, and they built 4-story buildings and hotels and Cameron Mitchell restaurants. But it was interesting when we first walked into it, it had like different sections. So it looked like it was either a photography studio or like a movie studio or something. And again, no one had any clue, but we found out it was it was basically 1950s a furniture store the last time it was used. So that one's it's it's really cool. It's got a lot of character.
Yeah, and I think a big part of your growth, Jamie tapped on that, is has been originally you guys were doing management deals to some extent with these people that would come approach you, but since then y'all have been diversifying and you're buying real estate now, and you're growing a network in some of these markets. You want to talk a little
Well,
bit about
yeah,
kind of
yeah, no, I think it makes sense for us, right? To do a lease deal, to do an operator type of deal, there's there's a lot of there's a lot of co-working spaces whose customer is actually the landlord, right? And again, not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just it's a different model than what we do. For us, if we're going to put all this extra money into a location and really build it to the spec that we believe that it needs to be built to, it doesn't make sense for us not to own these, right? And we've been extremely fortunate from a partner perspective. In Columbus, we still have less than 50 partners. So even when we're raising money, I mean, I call it we have the longest running like friends and family round that, I think any company can say. But and then we do have partners outside of our Columbus market as well. So they're relatively close, and their model is to purchase these types of assets as well. So we'll still do malls and we'll still do management type of deals, but most of the time we prefer to own the space and own our destiny.
yeah, I
So
think those partners outside. Oh, go ahead, James.
I was just say, I'm curious about what it's like to have 6 partners. Not very common and sounds challenging to me. But what is
Yeah,
it
and you
like
know
on the
what?
inside?
So I think when you're like with any business, I've learned that you need a number one, right? Like like with Fire Rover, you need a number one. With Thick Grip, you need a number one. And you know what? I'm usually number two, or in this case, two, three, four, or five, right? But the reality is that Matt Davis is the managing partner. He owns 50% of the shares, and again, whatever the amount is, voting shares, right? He owns the majority share, and so in reality, you can have conversations all the way to the top, but at a certain point, it is what it is, right? And Matt is, I give him a lot of credit, right? I've known him forever. My wife and him went to kindergarten, so it's one of those things where obviously I trust him with my family or with my life, but him and I have very similar views on the way you look at community. But the reality is that he is set in his ways when he's doing things. So what's nice is that he's set in his ways when he's doing things, right? Because as a CEO, that's what you want, right? You want a CEO that like is a leader and understands how to do things and can handle conflict and all the other stuff that happens. So what's really interesting is that Joel and Elizabeth and Terry really work on, like, Joel and Elizabeth do designs, Terry does the build out. And then I come in when basically, right, everything's almost done. So I just did a LinkedIn post today with Westerville. It's a 3-acre campus. It was a former armory. We're going to have, this thing's going to be cool. Like, it's going to have a bocce ball court. It has an 18 by 13-foot digital screen in back. It's got a standalone north high and outdoor event space, and it's really it's going to be just a really cool location. But Eric does accounting, and I don't. Matt, so basically Matt, Terry, Joel, Elizabeth are all working, and then I come in when we have to sell. And fortunately, they make my job easy, right? So in Columbus, or each market, we have a market leader, and then we have CMs in each location. So the market leaders, when we're in a mature business, really, we've had people sign up for these offices 2 years in advance, right? The city of Westerville brought us in to redo the armory building because it had been sitting there as I don't want to say, just an underutilized asset. So we reactivated it. But there are a lot of small businesses and a lot of our members. We have 4,000 members now. So a lot of times they're like, hey, I was in Worthington, I want to move over to Westerville. And then you have people to backfill. So just based on our clientele being a lot of the real small businesses of America, right? Like, and I say that, and a lot of co-working focuses on millennials, or they focus on like these, like the coolest, newest, technology savvy, all these things, right? we have some amazing companies, let me tell you, like ton of startups, ton of good stuff, but we have a ton of like financial advisors and title companies and real estate and just the things that you would see and that really are the lifeblood of communities.
And people that can afford office space.
100%, but we also, I mean, our memberships are like $99 a month, right? So you can be a member for a very small, it's up to 350, and then you can do dedicated desk and you can do private offices. And then obviously we have a ton of meeting event spaces and other things. And, we have restaurants. We probably have 15 restaurants that are under either owned by us or indirectly, will rent from us. But the reality is that we try to keep everything reasonably priced, which is a reason why we end up in smaller markets, right? It's more of that lifeblood. And as much as I want to go to a Miami or an LA and charge $3,000 for a single, it's just for us, it literally, it doesn't pass the gut check.
I think one of the great things that y'all do is your staffing, right? And you mentioned culture earlier and how important that is. And I've been able to interact with staff members at different locations, but also G came to one of the industry events and he was awesome. So kind of how do you cultivate culture being that y'all are in different markets now? Because y'all basically do kind of market leaders to some extent, correct?
Yeah, and that's where I don't know if Garrett from Huga, he's coming across and actually he's going to run a number of our outside markets, and then we basically have a market leader in every location. And then the reality is that anyone above the CM is overhead, right? So if you think about it, it's a one-to-one relationship, and Matt basically goes through this a lot with our team, but the reality is that one location needs one person, one community manager. And for us, we want to make sure that community manager is really driven in the community. So we want them to have enough time to do more than just literally sit in behind a desk or just deal with member fires really on a daily basis. So the reality is we want them to be part of organizations. We want them to be, active and engage in the community and have the community engage with us. So it's one of those things where that's really the lifeblood of our business. And we're always looking for good people, and it's not, how do I say, the person's probably the most important. So I think just generally we've been really fortunate, but we definitely are doing our best to formalize the kind of the training program and all the different things as we continue to scale. It's never easy to scale. I'll tell anyone that. I'm like, you know what I mean? It's easy to get one off the ground and to try to get it. And I'm not saying like being successful and not successful is completely opposite, right? I failed in a number of businesses in my life, but like the scaling part is where all the mistakes happen. So again, hopefully we're doing it the right way, and we'll find out. The one thing I will tell you, Matt and I both believe that you need to like basically pay your bills and make a profit within 90 days or you shouldn't do it. And again, that I believe this for every business that I've ever been a part of. And I share this with a lot of the Boost scholarships. If you think you're going to build a business to make money in 4 years, like that's VC. And there's definitely money out there for that. And there's different forecasting methods, but my forecasting method is like, how do you have your profit or your revenue over your cost? And how do you make sure that you keep the lights on, right? And then after that, you can worry about success or failure. But usually that alone will kill a company.
So that's a good one. So if you had what are the three biggest lessons you've learned from your failures of your businesses that people could learn from?
Oh, you want three? I've learned that overnight successes are that they take years, right? Literally, everyone looks at these startups. And again, I'm very into the VC in Columbus because I do believe that Ohio State and we have the Center for Innovation Studies that are in our locations. And we actually have a lot of education. Like we have partners with Ohio State. And again, when I say partners, like they brought us in to create a space on Ohio State's campus, and then Miami, CCAD, and others. So I'm always on the I'm also like with Lake Erie College, I'm helping them from an entrepreneur perspective. And it's like, how do you teach entrepreneurship? And the issue that I see is that there's literally two major basically differences, right? There's VC and there's like small business startups. And a lot of the money and media is all spent towards the VC. And again, 1 out of 10 works, the 9 out of 10 don't work. And it does make money, right? So it's the business model works, but not if you're 9 of the 10 that don't. And then it's the other side. So really, overnight successes, true overnight successes, are built over time. The one thing that I learned was that, like, when people are willing to pay you for what you think is common sense, that's when you know you found what you were looking to do. And again, that took me a long time, really trying to figure out, okay, if I'm good at sales, why isn't everybody good at it, right? Or if I'm good at marketing, this is something that everyone can do. But the reality is we all do different things, and you need to make sure that you have a good, diverse team. And that's one of the things I'll give Matt credit, because honestly, he brought us all together. And then one of the things that I've heard from a kind of a good mentor of mine, and really, he always says, you got to ring the bell. And he's Irish, so he says it better than me. He's like, you ought to ring the bell. And I apologize for saying it, but he basically, it's like anything else, right? You think a business is doing great and you don't know, right? The scorecard could be at 150 and the next day it's at 0. I had a product called the iPutter that I work with an inventor. It was like a little optic on a golf club, and I've never played golf in my life, nor had I put fires out before fire were over. But we have this product. We put it on Sky Mall. Again, it was 2015 or 2014. It's in Sky Mall. It kills it, right? So like, we're like, yes, we got like this product sold. It sold like 100 grand worth. Guess what? Sky Mall went out of business. They went bankrupt. They never paid us. So the business was gone because 150 grand that we put in, like, now it's okay, do I want to take a loan to get that second level? And we just said, you know what? We're going to take it for what it is. So you got to ring the bell sometimes. Don't wait too long to take money off the table. How's that for 3?
And so that was perfect. Exactly what I would have expected from you.
Thanks.
So you've got a little daughter.
You guys are too nice. I do. I have a 18 and 16-year-old daughter. So it's funny. Like Matt and I will always say that we built Cohatch for ourselves, right? So the reality is, I am a member, right? I am an entrepreneur that works in our spaces that can show that it can work, right? But when I had my younger kids, when you and I had met a few years back, it was like I just needed a place to work for 2 hours, and I was getting Panera. They were throwing me out after half hour, and Barnes and Noble, and like all those things, right? I literally hustled. I had a little VW Passat, and I worked out of that thing. And if I needed to take a call, sometimes it was bad, whatever. Anyways, it's the typical story. But the reality was, once I got an office, it actually was easy, but it was only because I didn't have to commute to co-work, right? I wasn't driving all the way downtown to go to an office, and I had flexibility. I could go to every location for 2 hours or go to a meeting and do whatever. So it really did work out when it's basically located within, I have 5 locations within 20 minutes of my house. So it's kind of nice. And that's another reason we don't do LA, right? Because not that I wouldn't want to do LA, but I have to have 30 locations in LA. I mean, maybe even 40.
Yeah, so it's crazy. When I met you, your daughter was 12. I said little girl, and I was like, oh my gosh, not so much anymore. And so, is she about to go to college? She's gonna be a senior. Where
she's actually going to be a senior. So I have 2 daughters, and then Olivia is actually at Dublin, Ohio. She is an intern for Cohatch, and it's funny because she had worked at North High, which is basically she had worked at North High, and then she was like, well, I'm a CM. Is it okay? Like she was a little nervous about it, but it was funny because literally she texted me this morning and goes, I love my job. And I was like, whoa, so listen, it's fun. She's 17, 18 or she's just turned 18. So again, we try to create a community feel, right? And again, I know a lot of people will say that, right? For us, literally, I know most of the nonprofits that we give scholarships to, and I personally can't help them all, but all of our contacts help each other. And that's, I always say we follow golden rules, right? Clean up after yourself, right? Put it back where you found it. Be nice to people, right? You know, you don't have to be everyone, like doesn't have to be best friends, but you know, I can respectfully work in a room, and your group can respectfully work in a room, and we can all get along and be respectful and utilize the assets, right? So that really is, that was the biggest concern we had of when we were going to other markets, but it's, most people are good people. We always hear about the bad, but the reality is that we live in the safest time in the world ever, right? There's less murders now than there ever been. And there are still really, really, really good people. Most people are good.
Yeah, how cool is it that you can build something that your kids want to work in, right? How awesome is that? And enjoy it.
Yeah. It's funny because we did kids makers markets, and so we have a location inside Polaris Mall where we've done like anytime we did a bake sale, or we have makers on the weekends that go there. And so it really is assets that you can use inside the community. And again, of course, we're going to be the first ones to do it. Like I had my daughter's bat mitzvah in the Polaris location in that bar that you saw, and it literally, it was so much fun. We had the greatest time. And now we actually have an event space. So I kick myself because if I would have waited a year, of course, 13, you know, you can't wait. But anyway, so you know, it's just we use it ourselves. And honestly, that's probably like when you say, hey, why'd you guys put like checks in the hockey, right? It's because we freaking love checks, right? Like it's the greatest game ever. Or like pinball, like we have these digital 3D pinball where you can play like 500 different pinball games. Well, when I was a kid, I had 2 pinball games in my basement. That's all I wanted to do. And like the first year and a half, all Matt and I did was basically play. And then we had like 10 members that we were playing like the Indiana Jones and Star Wars Die Hard freaking like tournaments all the time. So again, like we literally built it for ourselves. And that doesn't like, and we want to share it with everybody too. Like, I mean, if people want to be part of it and they want to grab a beer in your Coke machine, then to me, it's still funny. So I don't want to get old. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, you are a big kid, but that's the fun part.
Yeah, literally, that is the fun part, right? We have theaters that have kicked out like back seats. Like our sports simulators don't. They're golf simulators, but they do. You know, you play cricket and like zombie dodgeball. So believe me, it's adults more playing zombie dodgeball than kids. The kids love it. That's like some of these bigger parties with people really love to hang out at them. So it's fun.
I'm curious, so many locations, how has your model evolved over time? Like fundamentally a workplace, but I'm hearing you talking about all the different things that are happening in the locations. What are some of the things that have changed since the first location or the first couple?
Right. And no, and I think it's really a great, so just like anything, you evolve every space, right? And again, I take no credit for this whatsoever. I don't design any of our spaces. It's Joel, Elizabeth, Terry, Matt. Like you can, and then we actually have Brightstone, which we started a design company to help like basically scale it. But like the reality is that when we first started, we just wanted to not have money. We thought we were going to do this and basically charge other people, and then we're like, oops, wait, or we actually thought we were going to pay for it ourselves, which was, and then we're like, oh, well, maybe if we open it up, maybe we can actually pay ourselves as well, and it won't be, we realized it was $1.5 million to build out a 9,000 square foot space. But what's changed is like we did the marketplace, and we had like 7 different businesses, like 4 nonprofits, and that was in Worthington. And then one of the major changes was one of the mall operators came in and basically said, hey, I've been East Coast and West Coast. This is really cool. Can you do this for us at Polaris? And we did. And then we did a hub location inside Polaris. So it's a small kiosk, and it actually won the kiosk of the world, like the international fair for the best kiosk in the world. So again, we were lucky in the way, but it was like, what are we using this kiosk in the middle of the mall for? People aren't going to co-work there. Well, they do actually. And there are trainings there, right? Because there are trainings inappropriate. And then also a lot of our startups can use it to test products. So it's like that kind of evolved, right? And then one of the in Springfield, Ohio, the Spring Forward like association and like the community basically came together and gave us a Myers Market, which we ended up buying for a really good price, but and they helped us with funding. But like now we have 7 different small businesses that restaurants. So we have a huge food hall in it, and then we obviously have a smaller amount of co-working and event space and meeting rooms and private offices. And then the basement, you have a bocce ball court and arcade games, right? So it's if you go there on a Saturday, you have the local farmers market in the alleyway, and then it all goes into this open air market and everything in it. And it's been a really big success for Springfield. And again, our level of what success is literally so local that I know a lot of companies try to say it and they like say, hey, we care about local. Like we made a promise to the Old Worthington partnership that we would expand they have one of the #1 farmers markets in central Ohio, or actually I'd say in Midwest, but so they wanted to expand it across 161. And so the place, like the library location, we actually now 2 times every other Sunday, our maker, his name, it's Electric Sheep, but basically they run a makers market 2 times a month there. So a lot of the times, like we promise the communities there's things we're going to do. Dublin, Ohio, we always do we'll do a pitch competition. So that was part of our commitment to them that once a year we would have a pitch competition. So there's promises that we make that we do as part of what we would do anyways. And I think that's really allowed us to evolve and just again, I don't want to say that there's a cookie cutter because the minute it's cookie cutter, it really isn't off, right? For us, it's what does the locations and the space need? What do we need in the larger market? And what do we think people would use? And we kind of go with it from there.
So what is the exit strategy on this?
My real simple answer to you is there isn't one. Right? Like the exit strategy for us is I want to do this to the day I die, right? And what's interesting is that my dad passed away a few years back, but like he spent most of his time, like he would always feed people and that was his big thing, right? Like, he would do these 500-person events and with our temple and all these different things. And he would basically, that was really his life's passion. And then I always felt guilty that I wasn't able to do those types of things, right? So one of the reasons we brought the Boost Scholarship into, or the Gift Scholarship into our spaces is so that it's easy, right? We had a give wall where, when I sell a deal or when one of the other guys in the office would sell a deal in the very beginning, we'd each throw 20 in the give wall, right? And it's not like a percent for us. We've given over $2 million worth of scholarships since we've started, or in the last 12 months, sorry, like 600 organizations. So the reality is that we're doing this because from my perspective, like I always felt guilty that I wasn't at a food shelter, like making sandwiches. But the reality is that by us building this, we give so many other people the opportunity to go do those things. So it might be an indirect way to do it, but it's a way to do it. So really, when you say like an exit strategy, Matt always says that the minute that he sells out more the majority, so the minute he doesn't make a decision, then he just completely wants out, right? Which none of us want out, right? We're really looking at this as we believe that we could grow this to probably 2,000 locations across the country. And a big way we do this is through our gray spaces. So it's through the areas that we believe that every city or local neighborhood needs something and they all want to do it and they have the budgets for it. So we're going to start kind of working with them to basically run through us. And then any money we make from them, we'll give to nonprofits. So the whole thing hopefully becomes again, there's a for-profit business, but there is a nonprofit side of it. And then we've created something called the Cohatch Impact Fund, which anyone can be part of, but you donate and then you get the right to decide how the money is dispersed, but you don't ever get access to the money. So that's a big piece that we've really just scratched the surface on that. We've invested in 5 companies, but the whole idea is that if you get a Boost Scholarship and your company does well, which again, it takes years to do all these, you give your tax deferment to the impact fund so we can continue to do that, and then your kids or yourself or your great grandkids will get to decide what happens with that money. So honestly, this is like, I look at Fire Rover and I'd be lying if I was going to say that I didn't want an exit at some point, right? Stick Grip, I definitely am going to want an exit at some point. Cohatch, honestly, I don't know that we'll ever exit.
And I love that. And I just love the passion that you guys have behind it as I interact with you, Matt, Chris, Mike. It's even your support team, right? It's obvious that y'all care about the community and just what y'all are really building and just passionate about it. So excited to just continue to see y'all grow and evolve and see the cool, unique stuff that y'all keep coming up with for sure. So I look forward to seeing you again.
Well, yeah, I'm excited too. That's what's funny, is that it's funny when you look at it and you're like, when you work with good people, right? Because at the end of the day, they just built my first backgammon room at Westerville, and it's an office room with backgammon on the wall, which whatever. It's like that's not fun. I didn't get it like a rock climbing wall and all this stuff. So I'm really excited. Like today when I went to Westerville, like I see everything that they showed me, but I try to really stay like completely blurred until the end because I don't want to have any expectations. But it is cool to see, and I literally I appreciate it. And obviously, Jamie, if you're ever in town or you're ever in any of our locations, like for us, it really is a passion. This is not a money making ploy, right? Like we don't say this because this is us. Unfortunately, all of us are in positions where we don't need an exit, right? And again, I'm not talking about being like billionaires, but just being comfortable and having enough and not caring and knowing that if we build something sustainable, it'll take care of itself. So we would love to share it. And thank you for, I know Gio, when you came early, that was fun. It was definitely early on, and I always appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, Jamie, any last questions? You always have the last one.
No, I was just thinking Ryan did such a great job at sharing their why. You've kind of a unique sort of if perspective is the right word, but so yeah, I can tell that you put so much thought into the community. To your point, you're building like what you want and what you would use, and you use it. Like you live there. You said you have 5 of them within 20 minutes of your house, which is pretty remarkable. That's really unique for most operators. And Gio always loves to ask people what's their why, and it just kind of came through the entire conversation. So I didn't know much about your brand. This has been really fun for me to hear your story and learn a little bit more. And I just always love to hear how people think about it and approach their business. So yeah, and I can't wait to visit a location.
Well, yeah, and honestly, I do have a unique perspective because I don't like really care about industry per se, right? I don't like when I say I don't care, I don't spend a lot of time researching, and I'm not a part of it the way that I am on other industries that I kind of need to be for different businesses. But what's interesting is that we have such a bad reputation, right? Co-working, like all I hear every time, like, co-working, we work, co-working, we work, co-working, we work, and all I hear is that, and I'm like, there needs to be a different story out there because there are a lot of amazing organizations that didn't just waste every dollar that they were given and every opportunity they had. And again, I'm not saying there's not good people at WeWork because I'm sure there were some amazing people there, but I just I find it interesting. It's like when I first went to Ohio, I told people I was from Michigan and I get my hand in my face, right? And then I'm like, Michigan State. They're like, oh, okay, you're not the Wolverine. But it's like the same thing. Whenever I tell people, what do you do? I'm like, it's co-working, right? Because it's that's how you explain it. Oh, are you WeWork? And they just have such a negative connotation to it. So honestly, I believe that it's flexible work is the future. Anyone who doesn't believe that, yeah, obviously pandemic fast forwarded it a lot, but the reality is that we're not going anywhere. I mean, and there's a lot of really good operators out there that are doing the same type of thing or different with their different approaches, and there's a lot of good to be had out there, and WeWork should definitely not be the poster child still for this industry.
Without a
I
doubt.
don't know
Without
what
a
your
doubt.
thoughts
Well,
are on that, but
no, I agree 100%. I think Adam helped put us on the map from a different standpoint, just how outgoing and passionate he was in a way that Mark Dixon and others that came before couldn't. But at the same time, now we're having to kind of unravel that whole situation. And so, but I think the beauty of it is that there's more and more product types out there. It's not the traditional stuffy executive suite or even the co-working, right? It's products like we've talked about for the past 45, 50 minutes that are super unique, that bring a new audience, that bring a new use, especially to some of these buildings that haven't traditionally been used for that use. And so that's what I love about what you guys have been doing and continue to do.
no, and we appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, right. Thanks for taking the time today too. You obviously have a lot going on with your many multi-passionate endeavors. So thanks for taking the time to do this. We appreciate it.
No, 100%. It's funny because I always feel like I don't have a lot going on, but if you work
Perspective, I guess.
flexible properly, right? No, that's where it's, I don't, flexible work if you do it properly, right? And again, I don't mean there's not a right way and a wrong way, but there's like a way to try to make it efficient and not spend 2 hours in a car or not do a lot of this inefficient stuff. But I honestly, I definitely have busy weeks, but yes, I appreciate it and try to make myself look like I'm not busy. Never let them see you sweat. But thank
Perfect.
you.
Thanks, Ryan.